I'm so super excited to be sitting here and chatting with you, darling. We've known each other forever, but this is the first time that we've actually sat down and decided to talk about how fabulous Desi Hits is. And I got to make sure that I keep it G-rated, because you know our conversations, right?
No, I do. I've been really excited to have this interview with you too, Raj. I mean, you are a force of nature, and no, it's going to be good. I'm excited. Let's do this.
Let's do this. So we live in a era of severe branding. Everything's about branding. Pop culture really doesn't have a platform without knowing how to communicate to the masses out there, and there are so many different ways that that's done. Desi Hits has been incredibly successful in being able to create a very resilient brand. And the thing that excites me most about your brand, Ange, is that very few people actually are known as their brand. But when people think about Desi Hits, they think about Anjula Acharia-bath. How does that make you feel?
Wow. Well, it's funny. I think that I can't take credit for all of it because, my husband Ranj, who's also my co-founder, at the very beginning said to me, and he's kind of a marketing guru for years from Intel and built brands and great brands. And Ranj always said, kind of as the marketing head, the camera's going to love you. They're going to love, a female CEO that's really empowered, and especially South Asian women are going to really warm to that because they want to see role models. They want to see people like you that, they can look up to and go, wow, she's a South Asian woman, she's really doing it, or she's a woman of color doing it. So I can't really take any credit for that idea because it was completely his. And, at the beginning, I kind of felt really odd being the one doing all the press and talking about the brand and talking about the company. But, I think you're right. I think it's about building a brand. And at that time, I don't think I really realized that we were building a brand and it was going to be, a very woman-fronted brand. But he really positioned me and pushed me out there to do that. And also, I was quite shy at the beginning. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. Yes. I was quite shy at the beginning, and I felt like I was kind of like being all out. I mean, very honestly, I thought like, wow, I'm sort of like pushing myself out there. And it's funny because in your Noki questionnaire for the magazine, one of the questions you asked was like, what's your favorite film? And my favorite film is actually a children's movie, and it's called Akeelah and the Bee. And there's a part in the movie where Akeelah, this little African-American girl, just decides that she's going to embrace everything she is. And it's not a bad thing to go out there and be like, this is who I am, and embrace my skills and embrace all the things that I have that are working for me. Mm-hmm. And I just had this moment, and it was kind of the first year in Desi Hits where I just thought to myself, if this young little girl can do this in this movie, I could, I'm now, I can't remember how old I was then, but, in my 30s, I can do this in my 30s. Mm-hmm. So it was a real turning moment for me, and that was when I really decided that I was going to embrace what Ranj was telling me about building a brand, and I was just going to go out there and do it. So
why do you think that Ranj pushed you into the forefront? What do you think he saw, being that he was, as you say, a marketing genius?
Yeah. Like I said, I think it was just a case of he really wanted to embrace the idea of a female CEO. Right. He really liked the idea of me being a woman of color. I'm not afraid to say what I think. So if you're one of those brands that's honest, yes. And I say that to you because you're so honest in the way you present yourself, and your brand is very, this is what I think and this is what I'm going to say. And I think he just thought that would really work.
And it did.
And it did. And I think in an era where people don't want the fake, right? They want to see real. They want to see something that they can relate to. So yeah, I think I've always been a bit unfiltered from that perspective. Like, I will say what I think. Mm-hmm. So maybe it was just kind of an honest brand that was doing big things. And also, Desi Hits is a brand. I mean, I don't know if you put this into a brand context, but this company was born out of passion. Mm-hmm. That we all had as founders to kind of, and me particularly, because I grew up really ashamed of who I was. Mm-hmm. I mean, I grew up in England like you did. I didn't grow up around Desis at all, so I grew up in a very white demographic, and for years I was really made to feel ashamed of who I was, and that really hurt. and I always felt on the outside of everything. And it was interesting because I grew up in a completely white environment and felt like I was always on the outside looking in because, you know, boys didn't fancy me because I was the packy.
Yes.
And, you know, my clothes smelled of Indian food, and, you know, my mum dressed weird, and, you know, I'd have to wear Indian clothes at the weekend and people would laugh at me. I mean, all those things that is, you know, a lot of people have been through.
Yes.
Which is maybe what, you know, Ranj sort of saw, because he never had that. He grew up in a completely like Desi neighborhood, never felt those things, that struggle of wanting to fit in, never felt any of that because he grew up in Kent where there's more Desis than you can shake a stick at, you know. So I think he thought that a lot of people around the world would kind of really relate to that story. So, you know, I don't know if that answers your question, but essentially I think that there was an honesty in the brand and me and my story. And I, you know, as I said, like I grew up looking on the outside in, and I think if you're an NRI or even, you know, even from India now, which is why I think people in India resonate with the brand, is we've, you know, 1/5 of the world's population, Raj.
Yes.
And we've never had anyone in pop culture that's represented us.
Absolutely.
I mean, how insane is that?
Yeah.
We're 1/5 of the world's population. I mean, and
why do you think that is, though?
you know, I think it's a bunch of things. I think it's, wow, this could go on forever. I think it's sensibility. I think for years, like our demographic from our parents' generation weren't encouraged to move into the arts or pop culture. It was not seen as a career that was stable. And you know, I'm not critical of that, by the way, at all, because I think our parents came from India and wanted secure careers for their kids because they didn't want them to struggle the way they had.
Absolutely.
Especially in the UK, I think, you know, a lot of people from India came to the UK as working class, whereas in America, I think a lot of people came as, you know, engineers, doctors, more educated. Which is actually why I think they somewhat embraced American culture more than I think the British did, because, you know, they were just trying to survive. So I think it's a product of, you know, people just not going into the industry and forging their way in it, and now people are.
Do you think it has something to do with the, you know, conventional taboo of it's not very classy for, especially for women? I mean, you know, the whole gender thing and the ethnic thing that you touched on and everything. I think it's a plethora of things that if you do have that passion, like, you know, yourself and myself, and we've been through a very similar journey. The struggle's been you know, momentous on so many levels, but we've grown from it, and we've become the fabulous women that we are, darling.
Oh, of course.
But, you know, really on a serious note, I think there's just so much that goes against you know, any kind of support mechanism associated with anyone that truly does have an artistic lenience until the last 10 years. The last 10 years, Anoki came about. You came about in the last 10 years. And it's really interesting. And that's what I really pulled from, you know, to put together the prestige list. I looked over the last 10 years that Anoki has been around, and I thought to myself, my God, there has been an incredible and dynamic surge of South Asian success stories globally across every single industry in the last 10 years, more than it's ever been in any year before that. And that's why I felt that, you know, when I put out the 10th anniversary issue of Anoki magazine, I don't want it to just be about you know, my brand, because as media is, and as my brand is, I've had a very parallel journey with Anoki, along with the South Asian community. They have grown, therefore Anoki has grown. And it hasn't really been the other way around, to be very honest. If there wasn't a story to tell, we wouldn't be around today. So, you know, our homage to our community was to put together this incredible list of people who have been really game-changing in their respective industries. You've been very game-changing with Desi Hits. I want to touch on that. And really,
but before you do, I want to interrupt you and say, I was going to say this actually when I get my award tomorrow, but it might go on for a bit long, so I'll just say it to you now. But, you know, one thing I will tell you that is really hard for us, like when we're all forging our way, is, you know, most of South Asian media is really underfunded. It's underfunded, and, you know, I mean, people moan about it being really unprofessional, and I often come to its rescue and I say, you know, it's underfunded.
Exactly.
I wouldn't use the word unprofessional, I'd say it's underfunded. And what you've been able to do, Raj, but the problem with that, with, you know, the underfunded, is when you go to award shows or when you go to, you know, South Asian events, you feel kind of second rate. You kind of feel like, oh, you know, you see all these other kind of big, glamorous, glitzy events for other, you know, demographics or mainstream or whatever. And you just kind of look at it and you go, oh, wow, it's like South Asian, it's not that great, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I think that you've really been able to, you know, me and Raj talk about this all the time, you've really been able to elevate past that, you know, really been able to create a business model, win funding, win sponsorships, and create this event, which makes people like me feel really good about what we've achieved.
Right.
And
thank you.
But I have to tell you that it means a lot to, and I know, you know, other people that are here, it means a lot to us to feel that there's something, a body that recognizes who we are and treats us in a way that I guess we all deserve to be treated.
Yes.
You know?
Thank you.
And that means a lot. So I wanted to say that.
The prestige list, babe, you're on it. Desi Hits is on it.
Thank you.
You guys deserve it.
Thank you.
I look at what you guys have done, and
oh, I've got a swelling feeling in my chest, by the way. Thank you.
You deserve to have that swelling feeling. It should be all over you right now, babe.
Oh, no,
and
thank
you know,
you.
for those people who don't know why you're on the prestige list, I want to talk about that. You guys have done something with Desi Hits that no one has been able to accomplish ever in the music industry. And I know it's hard for you to take compliments, but you got to suck this one up, darling, because this one is deserved. No one's done what you guys have done. You not only have you guys created kind of this cross-platform ability for artists to go from east to west, you've done it the other way around as well. So I want you to talk about, why did you think that that would even be of any importance to people? Why would people care?
I think it just goes back to sort of my whole childhood of feeling on the outside of pop culture and thinking, there was this moment for me, I was telling a friend about it yesterday, that, do you remember when Michael Jackson, well, there's two moments that really triggered it for me. One is a very young child. So Michael Jackson had a cut-thick dancer in one of his videos, and everyone says, which video was that? Yeah. I can't remember which one it was.
Was it the black and white one?
I think it was, yeah. I should know that off by heart by now. But yeah, no, so I remember like when that happened, I was really young, and everyone calling each other, like from like India to New York to LA, to everyone was like, oh my God, did you see Michael Jackson had a cut-thick dancer in his video? And we felt included. Yes. Suddenly we felt like we were part of this world that we all looked up to, and you know, we bought all the albums and we just felt part of it. Yes. And it was so powerful. And I remember you know, in those days it was phones, right? I remember the phones ringing and everyone talking about it. And I remember like this moment I feel now, this swelling in my chest, and people going, oh wow, like, you know, people are really excited by this. And yes. It really affected me. That feeling affected me. And then years later, and it's funny because I told Jay-Z this story years later when I first met him, and there was that moment when Punjabi MC came out with Beware of the Boys, and that track was on the underground for years and years and years, and we were dancing to it at Aaron, my co-founder's house. And then it sort of popped and it went mainstream because Jay-Z jumped on it. Right. And there was this moment in the UK where, I mean, like, it gives me goosebumps talking about it, but there was this moment in the UK where we used to play like our music, like our bhangra music, in the cars with the windows up, right? And like yes. You'd stop at traffic lights and you'd sort of turn it down because the people next door would be going, you know, bloody Packies, like, turn your music down, whatever. So we'd be like, you know, driving our cars. When that song came out, it was like those windows came down, and it was like that moment where you're at traffic lights and you're like, because like everyone was playing, it was on the radio, it was in yes. nightclubs, it was like, and it was just such a moment where we felt like part of mainstream pop culture. We felt like we'd arrived. Yeah.
But can I ask you why it took Jay-Z to make you feel proud of your music?
No, I was always proud of my music, but I think that because I'd grown up always somewhat, you know, it's like I remember when people used to come around to my house, my friends, that's the crazy part about it, and they'd be like, what's that music? What's your mum playing? Like, you know, and I'd be like, Mum, turn the music down, like, you know, it was embarrassed. You know, I was, and I'm not ashamed to say that I grew up feeling really embarrassed and ashamed of my heritage because I was made to feel that way. Yeah. And now I'm a stronger woman and can say, I don't care how people make me feel, it's about how I feel.
Absolutely.
But when I was...
Amen, sister.
Yeah, absolutely. But when I when I was growing up, I didn't have that kind of confidence. You know, I grew up in a racist environment where we had swastikas painted on our garage every weekend, where people were spitting in my dad's face, you know, where calling us Paki from the youngest age I can possibly remember, having things thrown at me on my way to school. Like, I mean, it was really tough where we grew up. So, you know, I never had the confidence I have now to go, screw you, you know, I love this, I love my culture. So it was tough.
So then how did you go from being that girl to being
to
the woman that you are today?
This grown-up girl.
Yes.
I think it was just, that's a really good question. So I moved out of where my parents lived, which is a place called Buckinghamshire, and I moved into London.
No wonder.
Yeah, well, exactly. So yeah, completely like leafy, whatever, white suburb. And I went to London, and I think at some point in London, I just kind of embraced who I was. I think I was in this melting pot, you know, which is London, and no one cares. Like, no one cares who you are, what you are. I think that was the change. I just grew up as well, you know. I remember my whole life I was called Angela, and then I had this moment when I think I was 17. I go, I am not going to be an Angela anymore. Like, I want to be Anjula. Yeah, like I changed my name to embrace who I was and my heritage. But you know, my whole life I was so glad I was called Angela. Like, I was so glad that I had this really, you know, anglicized name that could just, like, you know, I could deny who I was. Like, my sister was called Anu. She could deny who she was. And like, people tried to call her Anna, but she was really strong, my sister. She was never like me. Like, she was just like, no, my name's Anu. And like, you know, yeah.
But isn't it funny how we go out of our way to, you know, try and be who we're not when it's obvious? You just need to take one look at us, we're brown. I mean, there's no getting away from that.
So, you know, I had this moment where, you know, for the longest time I thought I wasn't brown. And you know, in like England, they used to call it
rose-colored, rose-tinted glasses, right?
And you know how in England everyone was called a Paki, right?
Yes.
It was like the insult to give to anyone that was South Asian, whether you were Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, it doesn't matter, you were a Paki.
Absolutely.
So I remember being outside this corner store and with my 3 white girlfriends, and I thought I was one of them. Like, I totally thought I was one of them. I thought they were my best friends. And I'll never forget this moment. They turned around to me and they said, oh, should we go to the Paki shop? And then they all looked at me and they went, and they go, oh, sorry, Angela, but you don't smell like those Pakis.
Oh, gosh.
And can I tell you, I laughed. They all laughed, and I laughed with them.
Yeah.
Because what else was I going to do, right?
I so know that moment, babe. You're like gutted inside.
Oh my
you
God.
You really feel totally embarrassed, but you don't want to be associated with Pakis.
Those people over there that run the shop, that wasn't me.
That
that's not me. So like, part of me was so happy that they were like, but you're not like them, you're like us, you don't smell like them. And the truth is, I did smell like them. Like, my mum was making subjis, right? Like, I smelt like them.
Of course.
Right? And it was just like, so I think that, you know, those moments growing up, you know, I guess I just sort of grew up and said, whatever.
But you know what the interesting thing is about what you're saying, and what I'm really getting from your story, is that you fought so hard to not be you.
I know.
To actually come full circle and be globally promoting you.
But you see, that's the crazy thing. Everybody, like, in my family laughs. They were like, you spent your whole life running away from being Desi.
Yeah.
Now you're making Gaga and Britney and Enrique and anyone you could grab your hands on and making them Desi, you know? I mean, it's so funny. I remember when we first did a photo shoot with Nicole Scherzinger and the Pussycat Dolls, and I put them in saris, and I flew in Rokias from Mumbai to dress them. Yeah, and that was my first kind of big thing. And I was like sitting there just looking at them going, and Nicole was like, why are you looking at me like that? And I was like, you don't understand, like, this is really huge for me. Like, this is a very big personal moment because, you know, I grew up being ashamed of everything you were doing right now, and to see somebody that's not Indian embrace it in such a wonderful way. I mean, she was really awesome. Like, she looks
so beautiful.
I mean,
come on, Nicole Scherzinger. First time I saw her on TV, I thought
she looks Desi as well, doesn't she?
Is she Desi?
Yeah.
You know? And I think most people actually, for quite some time,
thought she was. Yeah.
That she was Desi.
Absolutely.
You know? Was that the moment for you then? Was that defining moment where you said, you know, I'm onto something here? This crossover thing can be a lot bigger than just putting people in saris, because then you did all of the things that you did
No.
with the music.
The defining moment for me was that moment in the car with the Jay-Z song.
Okay.
That was the defining moment when I said to myself, people want this. People want to see this cross-cultural, bicultural fusion, because it's inclusive.
Absolutely.
And I think pop culture has to become more inclusive. And this is why I love Gaga, because Gaga has made pop culture stand for something about you can be whoever you want to be. You can be straight, black, white, gay. You can be whatever you want to be, but my music will embrace you. And I think growing up, pop culture was never inclusive
like
for me.
Yes.
You know, it was very exclusive.
That's such an excellent point, because you're absolutely right. And that, I think, is the massive difference in the era we live in. The dynamic era that we live in. And I think just with all the technological advancements that also, promote integration.
Yeah,
around the
absolutely.
world, no matter what.
Well, at the end of the day, this is the thing. Like I always say, it's not just about a cultural shift, but it's about a technology shift.
Yes.
Like the shift has happened online, with all of the kind of, the different platforms, social media platforms that we have to really enable people to mix and to communicate. And it's why now, we spent a year breaking Gaga in India online through social media before we took her out there. Back in the day, you'd have just taken her out there and it would have been a sort of flash in the pan and whatever. But we made music, we worked with musicians in India, over the internet, sharing files, creating stuff. It was amazing. Like technology allowed that fusion to really happen at so many different levels, whether it's be from a promotion level, whether it be from a level of actually sharing music and sharing files and creating music. Because Gaga wasn't in the studio with Salim and Solomon when they were creating stuff on her music with her tracks.
It wouldn't have even been possible 10 years
exactly.
ago.
Yeah. It's like when we did a collaboration between Sonu Nigam and Britney Spears, and again it's like Sonu's traveling the world, like touring and doing his thing. Britney's doing her thing. Back in the day, you'd have had to have got them in a studio together to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Which is why it was so hard to make it happen. They're both superstars in their own right. I think the technology has been, the enabler, but at all levels, like I said, from a social media perspective as well, and promotion.
So I want to ask you, sweetheart, building a brand is where we started the interview. And I want to pull back to that area, I want to circle back to that area, and I want to ask you, what do you feel has been your key game-changing moment throughout Desi Hits?
I think at a professional level, I think it was taking Gaga to India.
What did that mean professionally for Desi Hits?
I was going to say that put us on the map, but I think we were way on the map way before that. But I think that it was just to take, the biggest star in the country to India and have her embrace it in the way that she did, to have her perform, in Delhi, and just kind of perform all the Indian versions we did of her songs, just the whole collaboration, and she's so amazing. And then I think like when we did the TV show, we did a big TV show in India, and I
Is that the one with Shah Rukh?
Yeah, so I orchestrated, actually Priyanka Chopra helped with that. We were sort of brainstorming. I actually wanted to do it with Priyanka and Gaga, but Priyanka was in LA recording her album, so she couldn't come back. So she actually said, why don't you do it with Shah Rukh? He's, incredible and whatever, which he is. And I think there was this moment where we were sitting on the couch, and there was Gaga, Shah Rukh, and myself, and we were just talking about what we were going to go and do out there on stage. And I think that was the moment, because my dream was always to be at the top of the game, right? To like do collaborations. And I don't think you can get bigger than Shah Rukh Khan and Lady Gaga.
Right.
So I think that's got to be the game-changing moment. And I think for people that were watching that, I think a lot of people probably thought that was never possible, because I thought that wasn't possible.
Right.
So I think for me, that was probably the most game-changing moment.
I want to tell you what I think your most
None of
game-changing. Honestly, your story isn't something on paper that you think could conceivably be something that could change popular culture in your industry. So for me, the game-changing moment for Desi Hits wasn't that you bought South Asian artists to work with mainstream artists, but you took mainstream artists to our culture.
Yeah.
So do you know how we grew up? And this is
Yeah.
kind of where you came from, babe. And what we grew up with is, you know, we're legitimized because, you know, Jay-Z all of a sudden does a rap on Punjabi MC's music. So now Punjabi's MC's music is legitimized. No, you did something better than that, babe. You actually took, you took mainstream artists and, you know, put them in a position where they themselves felt that our music was something important to them and our demographic was something important to them. And I don't know if anyone's actually done that but you guys. So darling, that's the reason why you're on the prestige list and why we're super excited that you're here and that we actually, you know, it's because of you guys that Anoki gets to shine because we tell your stories as media, you know. So what, you know, just as closing, I want to be able to ask you, why do you feel that Desi Hits has been, you know, able to accomplish what it's been able to accomplish? Do you feel it's timing? Do you feel it's indicative of your personal journey that is parallel to the journey of the community in general? Or is there just the fact that you just believed in this, that it was possible and made it happen?
Wow. I think it's a combination of different things. I think it's a combination of belief and self-belief. And I always say this, I just don't think people think big enough. I really don't.
Amen. Amen, babe.
I mean,
I completely agree with that.
And, you know, I've had one person that's always driven me from a child, and it's been my sister. Like my sister, shout Anu out. And it makes me feel quite teary actually, but she's always just really thought big for me. And I think I think it's just thinking big. I think it's thinking big, self-belief, and not being afraid. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've had my moments of being afraid, like so many moments. But I don't think I ever let that get the better of me. I don't think that I've ever let fear rule me, right? I mean, so yeah, just sort of not being afraid to just go, I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to do this. You know, I mean, every time I pitch to somebody, right, whether I pitch to an artist manager, whether I pitch to Jimmy Iovine at the beginning, who's become an amazing partner, I just shared my vision and dream, and I never feared that he would think I was stupid. You know, I just went in there all guns blazing. So
that's the Anj I know.
Yeah, it's a Raj I know. I mean, like, but that's it, isn't it? It's like you're just kind of like, you've got to go in all guns blazing. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Absolutely. And even if everything to gain is just the experience of, you know, becoming a better you, even that in its minimal is really worth it.
Yeah.
But, you know, and you're talking about guns blazing. I don't think there's a bigger gun blazing than Priyanka Chopra as the biggest launch as a South Asian musical artist in mainstream, darling. There's another moment right there. What do you hope to accomplish with that?
I want Priyanka to change the game. I want her to be the next J-Lo, the next Shakira. I just want her to change the game. And I seriously, Raj, don't believe there's anyone better than her to do it.
Why?
Because she's got it all. I mean, it's funny because Troy always says, and he's Gaga's manager and also manages Priyanka too, he always says she's triple threat. Like, she, you know, she can do everything, and she can. I mean, she can sing, she can dance, she can act, she's beautiful. She's just got it. She's just got it all. So and also the great thing about Priyanka is she spent the most influential years of her life, most impressionable years of her life in America. So she has a Western sensibility and understands what I need from her, you know, and that was the hardest thing. When you're looking at talent from India and you're sort of evaluating that and thinking, okay, well, and I need all these components to make that work globally, because it's not just about India anymore, and it's not just about America, it's global, right? I mean, we're looking to build global stars. Absolutely. That's what I'm about. Like, you know, I can't think bigger than that. So I just think that, you know, having that Western sensibility was really important, and it coming from, and it couldn't be fake, right? Like she spent from 13 to 17 in America, so that was when, you know, she got into pop culture. That's your most impressionable time.
Absolutely.
Is your teens. Like this is a music I like she was really into hip hop, R&B. She loves Tupac. Like she's really, you know, she was really part of American pop culture and understood it and lived it and breathed it and loved it. So then her coming back to India and, you know, really being an icon in Bollywood and you know, and mastering that, she just has that perfect combination of both worlds. And, you know, when I never even dreamt that I would find someone so perfect as her. So I was very lucky to find her.
She was lucky to find you too, and to find Desi Hits. Darling, it's been a pleasure. I adore you, and you know it.
Thank you,
And
you too.
Thank you so much for your time, and here's to just so many more game-changing moments.
Absolutely.
Desi
Come here,
Hits,
sister.
darling.
Oh,
I can't wait.
thank you, Raj.